Okay, so I've now done the final prepping, ready to take all the parts down for blast cleaning. So what I've done is I've tried to block off as many thread holes as I can, because that vapor blasting, it gets into the threads and it just really messes them up, especially in this alloy. So I've put bolts back in on the cylinder head. I've put the Allen screws back in on the edges there, and the rocker box nuts. I've put old spark plugs in. This is all to save the threads. Okay, so I've put all screws in around the inner case. I've put all the bolts that I can back in all the threads in the central case, in the gearbox. Then what I've done is I've used gaffer to try and block off the oilways as far as possible. We've still got the oil plugs in there. What I've done is the sort of crank timing plug is still in there. Then I've put back in, there we go, I've put in roughly the anti-drain valve and just the cap of the pressure release valve. I've sealed off all the oilways again, and I've sealed off as many threads as I can, or in the rockers and so on. I've left the pillar bolts and that in the head, because it's more the alloy that for some reason it gets affected by the vapor blasting. So these pillar bolts, there's threads in them, but I think they'll clear up. Right, yes, just turn the camera off accidentally then. So these they're steel threads, so hopefully they won't be as affected by the vapor blasting as the threads are in the alloy casings, because they really do fur up and they take an awful lot of clearing out. So that's why I've taken ages of putting tape everywhere, and as many threads got bolts in as possible. Okay, so it won't stop. It won't stop all the stuff getting in the oilways. It won't stop stuff getting in the threads, because that vapor blasting gets absolutely everywhere. But it will stop the worst of it. It will stop the threads furring up really badly. Right. Okay. So that's all the cases ready to go down for vapor blasting. Then, of course, I've got the actual outer casings, which I've now got to prepare after this, ready for polishing, because the outer cases won't be blasted because they're already semi-polished, and if you blast them, it'll just roughen them up, which makes then polishing them afterwards twice as hard. So the outer cases, the gearbox, the timing cover, the primary chain case, they won't go for blasting. They will just go for polishing. Right, okay, so this lot is ready to be taken down. I'll take it down to the blast cleaners now, and we'll see what they look like when they come back. Just a quick word about polishing generally. Now I'm taking the cases to be polished professionally, and there's two reasons for that really. Now I could polish the cases myself, and it is quite satisfying doing that. What I've got, I just bought a kit off the internet, a buffing polishing set of wheels, and then I took I've got an angle grind, a grinding bench grinder, and I took one of the grindstones off the bench grinder, and then I was able to put the there's a special word for it anyway, the tang onto the bench grinder, and then used that as a buffing machine, and it worked perfectly well. And you tend to get 3 buffing wheels of different grades, and you start off with the coarsest, and there's like a what do you call it, a polish that goes with those wheels. You put the polish on, and then you polish up, starting with the coarsest down to the finest, and you get a pretty decent finish. But I could never get a finish anything like as good as they can professionally, number one, and number two, it's very messy. because sometimes that grinding paste, the polish, the paste that you put on the wheel can fly off and go everywhere if you put too much on the wheel. And secondly, what you don't realise is as you polish, the actual mops that you're polishing with, they are made of cotton and they slowly wear. And that means you get lots of bits of cotton covered in polish floating around the workshop. And before you know it, the workshop is just covered in horrible mess. You know, it's just sort of dust that floats everywhere, greasy dust that settles absolutely everywhere. So it's best to do it outside, and so you need a decent day. So you can do that, but there's two reasons why. Also, you know, like I say, it takes me longer. It probably costs more for me to do it myself because I take all day to do it, to get a decent finish. And so that's a whole day's labour. And whereas if I take it to be professionally done, then, you know, they can get it looking way shinier than I can, and for less cost because they're not spending the whole day doing it. But if you are planning on doing it yourself, then it's very rewarding doing your own polishing. And then I've got a series of things that go in my drill to get in little spaces and that, which I might actually use on these cases because they don't do that with the polishers. All the little nooks and crannies, they only polish the cases and not the nooks and crannies. So I might hand finish those nooks and crannies. But so it's quite rewarding. But that's why I'm taking it to professionals rather than doing it myself. Right. So now all the main engine casings are off, being blast cleaned. Then there's the outer cases which need to go to be polished. We don't have them blast cleaned because they're already, they're a smooth finish. And if you have them blast cleaned, then they'll come up a rough finish, which will then need to be polished back even more to get a shiny finish again. So all I need to do is just prep these slightly. Nothing like as much of prep as for the inner cases. For a start, they haven't got any threads, or virtually no threads actually in them anyway. But B, the polishing process is much less harmful or problematic than blast cleaning. So all we've got to do is strip the cases basically. So I'll be taking the innards out of the outer gearbox casing, which we would have done anyway because we need to replace the springs in here. I recommend, because they do get tired. We'll be doing that. Then just taking a couple of bits off the outer primary chain case, really to make sure they don't get lost. I shall probably try and leave that bearing in there if I can cover it up sufficiently. Then there's the engine breather cover, and all we'll do is take off this little spigot there so they can get the polishing brush on it. The timing cover will take off the little timing aperture inspection there, and we'll drive this oil seal out, and that's really all we've got to do. So we'll crack on with that, then we'll get this lot to the polishers, and that's all the cases ready and done. Okay, we'll just start stripping the outer gearbox cover. So the first thing we do is we're going to take out the kickstart drive. Just push it through. Okay, kickstart. Put that to one side. The thing is that what people don't realise is under there, there's an oil seal. This is an oil seal cover, and then there is a little oil seal underneath that cap. I'll see if we can encourage it to come out. Let me see. There. Out it comes. So that's the cap, and there's the little oil seal underneath it. Okay, and if you know, oil doesn't pour out of there, but it can weep out of there annoyingly if you don't know about it and you don't replace the oil seal. When I finish doing this, I'll give the cases a good clean over with white spirit and that, because I don't want to take them down to the polishers covered in oil and that, because A, it's just not very courteous to do so, and B, they won't be happy, and you know, you want your polishers and that to be happy and do a good job for you. Right, so then we're going to remove the gear change mechanism that's in the outer casing. So there's this standard, I think, for all 5 speeds and probably 4 speeds as well. So all Triumphs. You got this plate, I forgot the name of it. It is held down by 4 nuts. Lock washers underneath, spring washers. Okay, is it the striker plate? I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it comes off, and it's got beveled sort of. Can you see how well we can see this? I don't know. It's got like angled, beveled edges on it, and if they wear, that can cause problems. That doesn't look too bad. There is some wear there. We'll make a decision on that. Then these are the little plungers, and these plungers, they're spring loaded, they've got a spring underneath them, and it's these pulls, these little plungers that engage with the teeth on the butterfly quadrant to change gear. And again, if these are worn, again they can not engage too well with the teeth, and again cause poor gear change. And those are the springs, and I recommend that you change those springs as a matter of course, that push up, because again, if they lose tension, then it's not going to engage positively with the butterfly quadrant. Okay, so those are the first 2 springs. Then there are 2 semicircular or curved springs, and they're actually on the actual gear lever, and they hold the gear lever tight. And again, I recommend changing these as a matter of course, because if they go soft, then again you can have a soggy gear change. It's difficult to tell without the gear lever, but again they're cheap, and so I've had, you know, again I would probably replace these springs as a matter of course. Okay, then now then we've got the actual gear shaft itself. And that can be a bugger to come out, so I'm not sure. I'll give it a go. See if I can get it out. I'm going to heat the casing and try driving it through, but yeah, it should come out okay. No, it has. No, there we go. Popped out. Fine. Now I'll tell you what I was confusing then. I've actually taken this quadrant off the lever, off the shaft, and that's what's a nightmare to get off. But just pushing it out of the casing, it's not a problem. And then again, there's a little oil seal there. You see there's an O-ring oil seal. There's a groove there that's got a little O-ring in it, and again that needs changing, because again that will weep. So I just encourage it to pop out for us. There it is. That little O-ring there, little O-ring that sits in the groove there. So you want to be changing that. So that's basically the outer gearbox case. That's all sorted now. I'm going to bag up all those parts. Okay, I've just got the last couple of cases ready. I've taken off the little triangular aperture where you look at the timing. and I've just got the oil seal, which again we're going to replace. We're replacing all oil seals as a matter of course. It just would be a false economy not to if you're going to rebuild the engine. So I'm just going to tap that through. Again, I've got a socket roughly the right size. I'm just going to tap that out. There we go. So there's the oil seal come out. And now, barring a little cleaning up, that's ready to go to the polishers. And then we've got the outer primary chain case cover. So we're just going to take bits off. Yeah, okay, I'm not sure if that's shorter than it should be. We'll see. So that's the clutch adjustment. Then we've got the primary chain adjuster, which we know is on maximum. So almost certainly needs a new primary chain. So just going to remove the lock nut, which I've already loosened off camera because I'm learning these days. And there is a washer that should really be, that's probably where it's been leaking from, all that oil, simply from there, because just a plain washer should really have a Doughty washer on there, which is one of those washers with a little oil seal in the middle of it. So, you know, what on earth is this? They've got like some kind of, this is, I don't know what, there's like a little washer with an oil seal in it which doesn't fit. So it's like heart, or is it the remains of a Doughty washer? I'm not sure. I certainly wasn't doing its job, whatever. You can see all the oil in that round here. I reckon, you know, there was a lot of oil under there when before we took the engine apart, and I think it's probably simply coming from that adjuster, looking at all the oil that's around here. So again, we'll clean that up before we take it down, but that's the primary chain adjusting bolt, which has got a little, let's say, rubber, some sort of plastic synthetic cap on that holds the primary chain tight. So the last couple of things then we've got here inside, this is the race that there's a thrust bearing that goes here between there and the shock absorber. Now that can wear, it looks okay. The advantage of this is you can simply just turn it over. It looks like it's probably been turned over once already, but we're taking that out simply so it doesn't get lost at the polishers, because it can fall out at any time. They're often loose. And then the last thing is here on the outside, we've got the clutch ramp with these little holes for the ball bearings. It's these, this is how the clutch works. The ball bearings sit in the bottom of these little pockets, and when it's turned, they run up the ramp, and so force it open, pulling it out, and not a great system. So I'm just going to knock this plate out, because again, that can fall out at any time and get lost. Okay, so that's the plate or clutch ramp out. And also, I think it's worth noting that there is an earlier version and a later version of this. Again, I'm not sure when they changed, I'll check. But you want to put the later version in, because it's the position it is in, it's more efficient. It gives you just that bit more extra lift on the clutch, which, and every little bit of extra lift you can get, the better. Okay, then I have the clutch shaft bearing here, or no, it's it would be the shock absorber shaft bearing. Now, it's a needle roller. It's very difficult to get out without damaging it. I think you can just have to heat the case and hope that it falls out of its own accord. What I'm going to do is, again, I'm just going to tape it up and leave it in there, because the polishing, it doesn't create that much mess. So I'm fairly sure if I can just cover that, then it shouldn't be harmed by the polishing process, and we can just reuse it, because the bearing feels fine, so it seems pointless to replace it. And like I say, if I tried to get it out, I might damage it getting it out. What you want to do to get it out, because what I'm saying is you can't get to the back of it, you see, because that's in the way. So what you would do is you would heat it as hot as you can, and then simply try and knock it out, hoping it will come out that way. And if it doesn't, then you've got to oik it out and sort of damage it in the process. Right, but again, bar cleaning up. That's the that's that done. Also at the front door. Oh, and the last thing I've got to do is just to remove this spigot, which is the sort of breather spigot off here, and that the other end of that I think goes back. I'm trying to remember. It goes back to the oil tank. I'm going to say something that's wrong now, and of course that won't come apart. You have there's a tube on that as a breather back to the oil tank. I'm going to put a pair of moles on that because the thing is it's got it'll have a pipe on it, so you'll not see it. So to get it off, I'm just going to put a pair of moles on it, and which will leave tooth marks, but I'm not bothered because you don't see it. Okay, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe this is bad practice. It probably is bad practice. I'm showing you most of it. Most of what I show you is bad practice, but it's what I do. It's probably bad practice. There we go. And because it's steel, it's not actually left any tooth marks on it, so we're okay. So that's a little breather spigot. Okay, and so that's all the cases now prepped. I've just got to clean them up a bit, and then we'll take them tomorrow. I'll take them to be polished, and that's all the cases then done, either being polished or they're already down at the blast cleaners. Good. When things come back from the blast cleaners, then we'll start doing all the measuring. This is when we'll assess all the camshafts, the cam followers, the pistons, the cylinders, the main bearings, the big end bearings, small end bearings, etc., etc. You know, piston ring. We'll assess the whole engine then. When it's all back and we've got everything, then we'll work out exactly what we think we need to replace and what we don't. But I'm waiting for everything to come back. I'm going to clean everything, get it ready, and then we're going to do all that at once. Okay, there we go. Engine fully dismantled, done.